One reason, outperformance. You want to buy that Tesla? You want NVIDIA? You want the king? Yeah, come to the US. Second reason is because the US has an exceptionalism complex that the
Yes.
world has upon us, right? We are viewed as kind of a safe haven, even in our stocks. And third, and this is what James McIntosh doesn't hit on, but we touched on it briefly before, and this relates to the trade deficit. If you are running a trade deficit, reserve currency, which we did hit on, dollars are out in the world, one of the things that you open up is the possibility for people to have more investment in your nation. Like those two things are related. The more that we are buying goods from other countries, the more likely they are going to be to invest in our country. So those two things are related. I don't think it's intuitive for everyone. So it's important. So those are three things that have led to this. Now, what is de-Americanization? It's when people decide, let's go back through those things. People decide, one, actually, it's outperformed too much. There are other places that can get a better return.
No one's deciding that. I mean, that's a sophisticated thought. What's happening is, oh, I lost 10% last month. And there's more uncertainty in the U.S. than there ever was be. And I might not trust the rule of law. And I'm concerned about their immigration policies. Sorry, it's simpler. I know what you're trying to say, but it's simpler than that. It's just I don't really trust this anymore is what's happening.
I get that. So there's whether for whatever reason, I'm going to put my money elsewhere to get a better return, whether that's because I'm freaking out because it's gone down 10% or whatever it is. There is also, I think this is different. The second thing that you just said is right, but I think it's a different point. The uncertainty that's been raised in our country, going to the safe haven point, has made it such that, well, maybe the U.S. isn't all that different. I was in Istanbul for a night, heading back from Paris. Walking around Istanbul, Turkey, there are people got AK-47s everywhere. To get into any building, you got to like put your stuff through. It has escalated recently because their president put his rival in prison right before the elections were going to happen. People started protesting. I think
shocked.
People are saying, people are not necessarily saying the U.S. is there, but if you start to extrapolate the amount of power that a central person can have anywhere, this isn't even Trump specific, it's just in general, you go, is the U.S. actually that different than other countries? And once you even raise the question, whether or not that the answer is true or not, when you raise the question, it goes from people automatically being like, yes, the U.S. is definitively safe, to it's no longer definitively safe. That just means people are looking elsewhere. Whether or not they move their money, you just start to look elsewhere. Then there's this fact of growth. So when you think about growth, what fuels growth in an economy? Macro-wise.
Spending.
Yeah. And what fuels spending?
Well, in this country, government investment fuels a lot of spending.
That's true. And lower interest rates in macro, like the macros to macro. And so the U.S. is putting itself in a position where we're like, okay, the reasons that the Federal Reserve on its own, with no other intervention, would decide to lower interest rates is because we feel like inflation's under control or there's something with unemployment. And with the tariff uncertainty, Powell's likely in a place where he's like, it's really hard for me to say that inflation's under control when we are aggressively trying to increase prices.
Well, come on now. He effectively said that. He said that this week. And so him and Trump had a little yelling match at each other. There's no doubt about that. He's in an impossible situation, but a Skippy and Doogles show salute to our man for standing up and saying this is a central body that will not be controlled, because you know how catastrophic it is, that trust we just talked about. You know how catastrophic that would be if the central bank is actually not a neutral party that is not associated with political parties and politics and the presidential office.
That's scary on its own. What becomes even scarier is the folks that obviously don't understand economics then being in control. of what's happening there. The thing here's the thing with Powell. So let's go back a few years. We talked about this back in late 21, 22, something like that. We were discussing the own goal that Powell basically had when he was talking about transitory inflation. Inflation's
Mhm.
transitory. It's
Yeah,
transitory.
this is
Took
21. Yeah.
21 took too long to act, right? So picture someone climbing up a mountain because it's just a hard job. And then you start slipping because your own accord, right? You start slipping and slipping, and Powell's like, okay, whew, all right, now I have like a 5% chance for a soft landing.
Mhm.
Maybe. That might even be high. So he's climbing up this mountain, climbing up this mountain, climbing up this mountain. And finally he goes, hold on. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I can see the top. Like it's
Yeah.
possible that I
I
get
think I
there.
made it. Yep.
And then his arm comes up over, his head pops up, and someone punches him in the face. That is what just occurred right now. And so now he's like, okay, now I've done fallen back down. It's a really, really hard situation coming out of another hard situation. And he has not done the job flawlessly. No one does their job flawlessly. And I think he messed up a few years ago, but has been trying to guide with data independently for a hot minute now.
If he messed up a few years ago, like I said, or like you said, it feels like he negotiated a soft landing against really long odds. So I'd give props to that, despite me being critical of him 3 years ago.
Yeah.
His messed up 3 years ago was not raising rates fast enough and maybe not raising rates high enough, right? And now the political pressure is on the exact opposite of that. You know how humans work when you make the last mistake and it's fresh in your mind?
Yeah.
And then someone wants you to do the exact opposite of that. If he's going to err right now, he wants to err on the side of anything but a rate cut and potentially a rate increase to tame inflation, which we all know is coming, unless global trade just stops, in which case inflation is still coming. There's just less choice. So we either get
Yeah.
we either get inflation with choice because there's crazy tariffs on things, or we get inflation with no choice, scarcity, and we
Mm-hmm.
have bare shelves. Like
Yep.
he's in a terrible situation, and to expect him to expect him to cut rates or imply that rates are too high at the moment is I don't have words. I mean, I cannot come up with an argument that says rates are too
Yeah.
high at the moment. And
I
the
mean,
only
picture that.
people I see coming up with that, sorry, the only people that come up with that are people whose job and wealth is dependent on low rates. Those are the only people I've seen argue for that.